Hello, everyone. This is Jim Ransom, your erstwhile poetry reader, back once again after a week's delay. I think for the summer, I'm probably going to end up reading a program about every 2 weeks. That should be enough. But I think you'll find some interesting poems are going to be coming out. And today we're going to be dealing mostly with dogs and cats. Most of us have one or more of each of those critters. And I'm going to start with a playful one that was written in the 1930s by E.B. White. You remember him? E.B. White was the editor of the New Yorker and some other things and a writer in the 1930s and early 40s. This one is called Dog Around the Block. Dog around the block. Sniff, hydrant sniffing, corner, grating, sniffing, always starting forward, backward, dragging, sniffing, backward. Leash it taut, leash it dangle, leash in people's feet entangle. Sniffing dog, apprised of smellings, meeting enemies, loving old acquaintances. Sniff, sniffing hydrant for reminders, leg against the wall, raise, leaving grating, corner, greeting, chance for meeting, sniff, meeting, meeting, telling, news of smelling, nose to tail, tail to nose, rigid, careful pose, liking, partly liking, hating, then another hydrant grating, leash it taut, leash it dangle, tangle, sniff, untangle, dog around the block, sniff. That's hilarious. I think those of us who have actually walked a dog down the street or around the block, as in this poem, will recognize the completely unpatterned behavior of a dog being taken out for a walk. Our next poem is titled Took My Dog by Emily Dickinson. Now, there's a couple of things that you should remember about Emily Dickinson. Emily never titled her poems, so the titles always come if the publisher uses a title, and they frequently do. They just take the first line of the poem, whatever it is, and that becomes the title. This is a case in point, and the poem is entitled, of course, as you might expect, Took My Dog. I started early, took my dog and visited the sea. The mermaids in the basement came out to look at me, and frigates in the upper floor extended hempen hands, presuming me to be a mouse aground upon the sands. But no man moved me till the tide went past my simple shoe, and past my apron and my belt, and past my bodice too, and made as he would eat me up, as wholly as a dew upon a dandelion sleeve. And then I started too, and he followed close behind. I felt his silver heel upon my ankle. Then my shoes would overflow with pearl until we met the solid town. No one he seemed to know, and bowing with a mighty look at me, the sea withdrew. Dogs never appear in this poem, do they, except in the title. And it is built the poem is built about what happens when Emily stands on the shore sands and experiences the tide coming in. And it's very cleverly done. She says, "But no man moved me till the tide went past my simple shoe, and past my apron and my belt, and past my bodice too." She's trying to be a little suggestive here, isn't she? And the tide is supposed to be confused with or engulfed by the image of a man. It is a man, and made as he would eat me up, as holy as a dew upon a dandelion sleeve. And then I started too, and he followed close behind. I felt his silver heel upon my ankle, and so on, until we get to the very last line. And bowing with a mighty look at me, the sea withdrew. It wasn't a guy, it was the sea. And of course, you all figured that out right away, I'm sure. Now we're going to finish this program with a completely different type of poem. This is a 17th century poem by Christopher Smart, which is taken from a long poem of his called Jubilate Agno. The section I'm reading is still too long for the modern listener and reader, so I'm shortening it. Please attend to the fact that Smart starts every stanza with the word for. So here we go. For I will consider my cat Geoffrey, for he is the servant of the living God, duly and daily serving him. For at the first glance of the glory of God in the east, he worships in his way. For this is done by wreathing his body 7 times round with elegant quickness. For then he leaps up to catch the musk, which is the blessing of God upon his prayer. For he rolls upon prank to work it in. For having done duty and received blessing, he begins to consider himself. For this he performs in 10 degrees. For first, he looks upon his forepaws to see if they are clean. For secondly, he kicks up behind to clear away there. For thirdly, he works it upon stretch with the forepaws extended. For fourthly, he sharpens his paws by wood. For fifthly, he washes himself. For sixthly, he rolls upon wash. For seventhly, he flees himself, that he may not be interrupted upon the beat. For eighthly, he rubs himself against a post. For ninthly, he looks up for his instructions. For 10thly, he goes in quest of food. For having considered God and himself, he will consider his neighbor. For if he meets another cat, he will kiss her in kindness. For when he takes his prey, he plays with it to give it a chance. For 1 mouse in 7 escapes by his dallying. For when his work is done, his business more properly begins. For he keeps the Lord's watch in the night against the adversary. For he counteracts the powers of darkness by his electrical skin and glaring eyes. For he counteracts the devil, who is death, by brisking about the life. For in his morning orisons he loves the sun, and the sun loves him. For he is of the tribe of Tiger. Now we're going to end the poem there. I will say, though, that this poem consists of another 1.5 pages, with every line beginning with for. And he continues to describe the cat. The author continues to describe the cat. And it is really quite a work of art and sort of a tour de force about cats. And if you own a cat, it might be worthwhile, if you haven't already, to find and read this poem because it really does limn the cats perfectly. Okay. That's it for today. Well, not quite, of course. I do have to say a little something about politics, don't I? Joe Biden has decided not to run again for president. This will be received with joy and relief by members of his Secret Service detail, most of whom have been bitten at least once by the Biden dog, a very jumpy German Shepherd. Bye now.